Okay, for this video I just want to go over this page 10 chart, and I also want to introduce you to some graphing software, a graphing website. So if we're going to complete this, I just want to remind ourselves that the horizontal translations have to do with the h values. Okay, so the h values over here, and specifically what we do is we replace x values with x minus h, and that's the horizontal, and the vertical we has to do with the k value, and what we do is we add k to our result. So when we're talking about a horizontal translation of to the right 1 unit, that means that my h value is going to be equal to 1. If we're going to the left, that means that h is going to be equal to -3. So what I want to do is, looking at my function, wherever I see an x, I want to replace this x with x, it's supposed to be quotation marks, x minus 1. So whatever the h was, or I'll say generically it's x minus h, so in this case it's x minus 1. So I'm going to write y is equal to x minus 1 all squared. So that's what it looks like. If I start off with y is equal to x squared and I want to move it 1 to the right, I write y is equal to x minus 1 all squared. Similarly, if I want to move to the left 3 units, I write y is equal to, and I'm writing the same y is equal to x squared here, except I replace the x with, now the opposite of -3 is +3. Okay, so this one will move my parabola. This one will move it 1 to the right, and this one will move it 3 to the left. In fact, let's take a look at this. I'm going to go over to a website here called desmos.com. So in fact, if this is your first time kind of checking it out, you can go over and you can just type out Desmos, actually I'll go back, it's desmos.com, and I've kind of started things off here. I've got my y is equal to x squared, and then you'll notice, here if I want to try to draw, you'll notice that to make horizontal shifts, and then I manipulate the h. So I've got f of x minus h. So that's how I was writing it before. So let's try this out. Take my drawing off. So if I make my x equal to 1, you'll see how it slid over to the right. If I make my x minus 2, you'll see how it slid over to the left. Or, you know what, might be easier. Let me just take this off and kind of do it sort of more manually. So if I go inside of here and I say, okay, backspace, I'm going to say x minus 2, and then all squared. And you'll see how that shifted it over to the right. If I change this minus 2 to a plus 1, you can see how it shifted it over to the left. So that's just like what we were doing over here. If I want to move something to the right 1 unit, I write y is equal to x minus 1 all squared. Let's go down one. Let's say if my function was the absolute value of x. So this is y is equal to the absolute value. Actually, I don't need to rewrite it. This looks like, I should say, the function looks like that. If I want to move it to the right 1 unit, so what is that going to look like? It'll look like this. So wherever I see an x, I want to replace that now with an x minus 1. So y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 1, like that. If I want to move it 3 units to the left, now my h value will be equal to -3, and so I write y is equal to absolute value x. Now I say minus h, so it's going to be a minus 3, so plus 3. Oop. Doing some weird things there. plus 3, and the absolute value. Let's go see if we can do that with my graphing software. So I'll take my first one here, and I think I have a feature I can say absolute value of x, and there's my graph. And now if I say, hey, if I want to move it over 1 to the right, I can say minus 1 here, and you see how it moved it over 1 to the right. Okay, if I was to say plus 3, you can see how it moved it over 3 to the left. Okay, kind of cool stuff. Let's go back. Let's go down here to this reciprocal. And I'm thinking that you can probably figure this out. I want to do that same wherever I see an x. I'm going to put a minus 1 here, so it's going to be y is equal to 1 over x minus 1. Try to make that a little bit nicer for next. There we go. The original function, if you recall, goes like this, and then like this. And so what does this look like? Well, it gets moved over 1. So here's my x and my y axes, but now when it gets moved over 1, so it ends up looking like this and like that. Oh, you know, I didn't do a very good job of drawing, so let's go take a look at it. So if I go over here, if I write 1 divided by x, so there's my original function. Now if I change this, so if I say minus 1, you can see how it moved over 1 to the right. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see how this is approaching 1, but it never touches it. Right? What if I change that instead of minus 1? I'll change that to our plus 3. Oops, things got a little funny there. I'll go 1 divided by x plus 3. And I'll have to zoom out a little bit so we can see it again. And you can see how that moved over 3 to the left. So here, if I want to move it 3 to the left, I would say y is equal to 1 over x plus 3. So for any function now, we would say y is equal to f of x minus h. So this is how this one takes the place of doing every single little example in the world. So it explains the quadratic, it explains this absolute value, it explains the reciprocal. In fact, it would explain any function at all. Let's go make a really crazy one over here. So if I take this one here, and let's say if I make it, oh, I don't know, say x cubed minus 6x squared, I don't know, plus 4x plus 5. Okay, so let's say that's my original function, and now I made a little slider down here on the bottom. See if I can make it work okay. So first I'll set this as 0 so we don't see any difference. Okay, so now in blue will be my new function. So if I slide this over to the right, you can see how that kind of neat slides it over when I change that h. And if I make it left or negative, it turns it left. Okay, so this is in the format where it describes taking any function and moving it over. So this Desmos can do that kind of cool stuff for us. All right, let's go back to the next part of the chart. And we're talking about the vertical translations. The vertical translations are actually a little bit easier. If we want something to go 2 units up, oops, something weird here. If we want it to go 2 units up, then we just go y is equal to, this was x squared plus 2. If we want to do 4 units down, we say y is equal to x squared minus 4. I won't go through the individual examples of it. Now, for this absolute value, y is equal to the absolute value of x plus 2. Here we get y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 4. If we want to move it 4 down, we put minus 4. For the reciprocal, y is equal to 1 over x plus 2, y is equal to 1 over x minus 4. And now for the any function at all, we'd say y is equal to f of x plus k. In fact, I did this even more generic. If I wanted to move any function, just for our two examples, we could say y is equal to f of x minus 1 to move it 1 to the right, and if I wanted to move it 3 to the left, I would say y is equal to f of x plus 3, yeah, and so on. So this is the generic one if you have an h value, and here's if you have a k value. Okay, so I just wanted to go over that one chart for you. We'll make it work.